Let's move on to what I think is probably the buzziest, hottest topic that there is, and that's like, containers. Seems like the last 3 to 6 months, containers have come out of nowhere, and everyone's talking about containers, and containers are going to, overtake virtualization. How does the theme of containers fit into, enhance, or detract from software-defined data center? Yoram, you would know about this. What's your sense of that?
So I think container is probably going to be a good contender for the next generation of server virtualization, and it's going to impact other parts of the data center as well. So if we look at where server defined software-defined server started, it's all started about solving the problem of how you can isolate different software-based entities from one another so they could each run their own physical server emulation in a way that can work on a single piece of hardware. And virtualization was the first way to do it, basically emulate everything, make sure it is running, and you could support different versions of server hardware on the same platform and get a lot of benefit. But that comes at the cost, and the cost is the overhead that a full emulation brings with it. So container basically goes the next step and says, okay, let's assume that we don't need to carry a lot of legacy application, which is what all the new software as a service companies do, and we can run on a single platform. Then can we have a way to do the same virtualization or the same effect of virtualization by lowering the overhead and making sure that resource utilization is better by basically sharing the same, not just the same hardware resources, but the same basic operating system resources. So for every new company that doesn't have a lot of legacy, that's a really great way. For all the new clouds, that's a great way, a better way, a more efficient way. So I think virtualization was kind of a stepping stone in a way that it was the only way you can get into an existing traditional infrastructure and say, I can take whatever you got and transform it into a virtualized world. But once you are in a virtualized world, I think containers is probably the next step. Now, container is just, again, the server piece. And apparently everything starts on the server side. It doesn't impact on the other entity, the networking, the storage. And we are yet to see whether all those pieces can come together and give you a much more efficient utilization, better automation than virtualization. If this is true and this is possible, this could be an evolution of software-defined data center. And I think it's good news in the sense that software-defined data centers should continue to evolve rather than stay the same place and say, okay, we got to a nirvana of, say, software-defined server, and we don't need to change. I think this shows that even software-defined server, which nobody would argue is a real significant transformation, may not be the end game, and there is a much better way to do it, which is container. So the short story, in my opinion, is it's a great opportunity. Time will tell if this will mature to be the next generation of virtualization.
Alessandro, your take? I mean, are containers going to be the next wave, and is VMware going to be able to deal with this challenge to its virtualization stance?
Yeah, well, I'm sure VMware will learn how to deal with it for sure. But
Yeah.
I will just quote one of our financial customers. He basically said, Alessandro, when in the history of humanity, when we wake up 100 years from now, virtualization will be forgotten. I think containers are the way to go. I think containers, virtualization struggled at every level, even the network level. Always there's a performance penalty, right? So if you can find a way to do the same things, accomplish the same results with the different tools that doesn't incur into the same penalties in terms of performance, and so you can get more bare metal-like performance, I think that probably will see a lot of adoption. I have no crystal ball, I have no idea about the future, but I think that the advantage of virtualization for the next decade at least 5 years, whatever it's going to be, that there are mature toolkits and orchestration tools built around virtualization, not to mention an entire ecosystem of applications built around that. So it will take generations in order to do the change. However, if there are compelling reasons to move away from virtualization to a more like a bare metal type of virtualized approach, then that will happen. I don't know, time will tell, but I view this as one dimension of software defined. It's just a tool, whether it's virtualization or container, you're trying to accomplish the same result.